Oda finally revealed Brook's backstory with Gunko, but it's not just about the relationship. There were many hints that this flashback will also reveal a lot about Imu, the Holy Knights, and possibly even Zaza, the rain god. Let's start from the beginning. We see that Loki and Imu's fight continues, and Oda keeps dropping more hints about Imu. Being the strongest in the verse, as Loki described him as the toughest creature he has ever seen. Don't forget that Loki has seen Herald, Rocks, and even Vash Shanks. Of course, we already knew that Imu was the strongest, but we still get more confirmation every chapter, like Gabann saying that it's the strongest haki he's ever felt, or Luffy saying that he could barely breathe because of Imu's haki. Besides Imu being nearly invincible, you must also note the fact that Loki and Ragnar seem to be way stronger than we originally thought. First, they managed to block Imu's name attack, grammar, which refers to the legendary magical sword from Norse mythology. With Nemesis and Graham, Oda is showing us that Imu can seemingly transform his weapon into every sword imaginable, each linked to mythological references. In future techniques against Nika, the sun, Imu may use attacks inspired by myths surrounding the death of the sun. In almost every myth, there is an enemy of the sun. In Norse mythology, we can think of Skoll, the wolf chasing the sun, which could become one of Imu's techniques. In Chinese myths, there's also the story of Ho Yi, the archer god who shot down 9 of the 10 suns in the sky.
So,
Perhaps Imu could use a bow or projectile attack inspired by that. Anyway, you get the idea. Later, we saw that Gunko is still frozen, meaning that even Imu's omen could not melt Ragnar's ice. The fact alone that Imu one-shotted Zoro and Sanji, but still could not defeat Loki, after several chapters, already says a lot about the giant's strength. Of course, Loki won't die, but it could mean that Imu will soon gain huge advantage over him, forcing Luffy to make his grand return. Imu also mentioned a new character, Dozen. From Imu's speech, I can only see 3 possible options. Number 1, Dozen was the user of the Zaza fruit or the ancient earth god during the Void century. I like imagining Oda rapidly revealing all the gods around the same time. The Japanese word Dozen can apparently mean mountain, which fits the earth god theme, but that seems less likely. The second option is that it's Joy Boy's actual name, but I believe Joy Boy's real name will be far more important and saved for a much bigger reveal. And the third idea is that Dozen is the ancient user of Ragnar and possibly the user of the Nidhogg fruit during the Void century. Right now, this option makes the most sense to me. From here, we move on to Usopp and Brook's conversation, and from everything Brook explained, Nami, probably the smartest Straw Hat, already understood that Gunko is being controlled. The oldest flashback in One Piece taking place 70 years before the current story starts, with Brook singing a song in the village at 4 a.m. And once again, we see Brook doing the Nika pose. This isn't the first time we saw Brook do it. During the Fishman Island arc, Whole Cake Island, Elbaf, and even on the color spread of the chapter where he joined the crew, Brook has always been important, not just a Straw Hat member, but also because of his soul abilities, being Sake, and his connection to Gunko, and I'll explain why. In this chapter, we also saw Gunko's parents, and both of them seem extremely important. Gunko's father looks a lot like Blackbeard and Rocks. Oda previously created concept art for Blackbeard, and the one in the middle has the exact same chin as the one we see on King Ruin. Could he be a member of the Davy family? Not only that, but Brook and even his afro also parallel some of the characteristics associated with Davy clan members. He looks exactly like Kid Blackbeard. The question can definitely be asked, but I don't really see what purpose it would serve. I can't figure out why Gunko or Brook would need to be members of the D clan, and even more than that, what would be the point of keeping Gunko alive as a Davy when the D clan are supposed to be the enemies of Imu, the very bloodline he wants to completely wipe out? For now, there still isn't enough information to fully speculate on that, so let's move on to Gunko's mother. Gunko's mother, Queen Candle, is even more interesting. She has the Holy Knight design, and from what we saw in this chapter, she doesn't seem very kind. Maybe she was sent on a mission as a Holy Knight to have a child with the king for some specific reason, and later killed the king before taking Gunko back to the Holy Land. If the king is actually from the Devi clan, maybe that's why Gunko has such strange eyes. What if she's a mix of celestial, dragon, and Devi clan blood? And that's the result. Candle also looks a lot like Cavendish, another mysterious character, who gets emu-like eyes in his Hakuba form. It's insane that Oda keeps randomly giving characters completely different types of eyes. Characters like Cavendish, Zunesha, Imu, Mihawk, and Gunko. Yet, even after 28 years, he still hasn't directly explained what the difference actually means. It's impossible that this is just a random design choice. Oda is way too intentional with visual symbolism, especially when multiple mysterious and important characters share the exact same eye patterns. I think it's finally time for Oda to reveal at least something about these eyes. Okay, back to the chapter. Queen Candle could also be connected to Carmel. The fact that Carmel was from the West Blue always felt suspicious. What if she originally came from the Asperia Kingdom as well? Our Lady of Candelaria, also known as Our Lady of Candles, is a revered title of the Virgin Mary. The fact that Brook encountered the soul fruit Carmel was on Elbaf, and both of them seem to possess soul-related abilities might be more than just a coincidence if they all originated from the same kingdom. Another interesting hint is that Carmel used to sing to the children, and Oda specifically included a panel showing them knowing and singing Binks's brew. We also know that Carmel had connections with the world government. Could those connections have come through the Asperia Kingdom, similar to Gunko? Oda even drew the personification of Brook's sword, and it looks a lot like Mother Carmel. Brook was also the one who broke Mother Carmel's picture. Then, right when Big Mom was about to explain who Carmel truly was, Oda suddenly switched the conversation, which also felt suspicious. There is simply too many parallels, and I wonder how Oda is going to connect all of them. Next chapter is going to be huge. Brook dreamed of becoming a pirate, yet he willingly ate a devil. Fruit that would turn him into an anchor in the sea. He didn't eat it by choice. Maybe Brook consumed the Yomi. Yomi no Mi out of duty rather than desire. The fruit he possesses may hide far greater powers than simple resurrection. The fruit could have belonged to the kingdom of Hesperia or somehow ended up there, triggering one of the world government's hunts. This flashback may finally reveal the truth behind Brook's curse, how he obtained the fruit, and what its real powers actually represent. One thing is clear, this Brook flashback will also be important to the events of Elbaf, not only because Gunko and Brook have a relationship, but also because Im and the Holy Knights are directly involved. They even erased her memories. Brook's past and his eye reveal are the least important pieces of this flashback. Massive lore about Im and the Holy Knights could be revealed here, and maybe even information about Zunesha, the rain god. In this chapter, Brook appeared alongside the rhythm of some kind of music. Considering that Im, Nika, and Zunesha all seem to appear through the rhythm of music, this could be a hint that Brook might also possess a god fruit. Even if it sounds far-fetched, I actually kind of like this idea because there are still so many mysteries surrounding his devil fruit. We don't fully understand how the Yomi Yomi no Mi truly works. I mean, Brook came back to life in a very similar way to how Luffy returned after Kaido killed him. And this flashback also began right after the reveal of Zunesha, so there must be some kind of connection to the rain god. Even if Brook himself isn't directly connected to it, I believe we could still see the previous user of that fruit during Brook's flashback. The same thing happened with Loki and Rox. The relationship between Loki and Rox in Rock's flashback wasn't that important, but we still saw the God Valley flashback and learned how Iam's powers, the contracts, and Domi reverse work. Back in 2019, Oda mentioned that he was reading The Rose of Versailles, and Queen Candle seems heavily inspired by Lady Oscar. Lady Oscar's love interest is a childhood friend named Andre, someone from a lower class, a fellow soldier who was never supposed to be with her. Because of that, we might also get a tragic love story involving Brook in this flashback. And Oda seems to have another inspiration for Brook as well. Do you remember those random emu photos that Oda revealed? It's now clear that they're connected to Brook, and I finally understand why. One of these artworks, Brook himself is portrayed as a road filled with countless signs, with several of them leading directly to hell. Brook has mentioned the underworld many times throughout the story, but what if it's not just symbolism? What if the underworld is actually the abyss itself and Brook somehow knows how to navigate through it? A lot of people don't want to believe it, but the underworld is most likely a real place in One Piece, and Brook's very existence practically confirms that it exists.
So,
Is it possible that we will literally travel into the abyss in order to defeat Imu? Separate dimensions have already existed in One Piece before through abilities like the Door fruit and the Mirror fruit, so the idea itself isn't impossible at all. I believe one of Oda's biggest inspirations for Brook's story is Orpheus. Orpheus was a legendary musician from Greek mythology who ventured into the underworld armed with a harp in order to save the woman he loved. The fact that Hesperia's name is connected to Greek and Roman culture while also featuring a harp-shaped mountain makes Brook's connection to Orpheus even stronger. Orpheus is one of the most famous figures in Greek mythology, and his story has influenced countless other stories throughout history. After his wife Eurydice dies shortly after their wedding, Orpheus is overcome with grief and descends into the underworld alone carrying only his harp. Through his music, he charms Hades himself and is eventually allowed to bring Eurydice back. However, there is one condition. He must walk her out of the underworld without ever looking back at her. But in the end, he does look back and loses her forever. In many ways, Brook can already be seen as One Piece's version of Orpheus. He already ventured into the underworld once and somehow managed to return to the world of the living.
So,
will he have to do it again? Could Brook descend into the abyss once more to save Gunko and the others who are trapped under Imu's control through the power of music? There's also another interesting parallel. In the Book of Jonah, Jonah is swallowed by a giant whale and spends 3 days and 3 nights inside its stomach while praying. Brook and Imu both being swallowed by massive sea creatures, a shark and a whale, could be another subtle hint connecting all of this together. I like how even after more than 20 years, Brook can still be considered one of the most mysterious characters in One Piece. But Brook is mysterious not only because of his unknown past, but also because of his song, which clearly holds deeper meaning of the story and even because of his constant Nika poses. Eiichiro Oda always tries to connect the idea of Nika to every important character in One Piece, whether they're from the past, the present, or even the distant future. Of course, Brook isn't the only character associated with the Nika pose. We've also seen Kizaru, Vegapunk, Kuma, Bonnie, Usopp, and many others do it as well. That alone shows just how much Oda is building Nika into something far greater than just an ordinary character or title. Everything, including Zaza and Brook's backstory, feels like part of the world's build-up toward finally revealing what truly happened during the Void Century of the entire story. But despite all that, I still can't wait for Imu's reveal during the Void Century flashback. We are talking about the backstory of a character who defeated Joy Boy himself, destroyed his alliance, and ruled the world for over 800 years. What could possibly be his reason? I honestly expect one of the greatest flashbacks in One Piece history for Imu because I highly doubt Oda would create such a legendary final villain only to give him a simple love triangle or an ordinary backstory. Before this reveal, you can watch this video about the only man who survived Imu. Thanks for watching. Bye.